Climb aboard the NFL Express with Charles Barr and John Chapman, your one stop for all 32 NFL teams and news from around the league.
10,000 years will really give you a crick in the neck. How's it going, John?
It's going pretty good. Nice opening.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
I don't know what else to say. He's
right.
funny. I don't know what to say.
I wanted to get you off guard, and you responded beautifully, by the way. A+ return.
Hey, man.
I
just
forced.
hope him and Paul Walker are just chilling right now. You know what I mean?
Don't. Oh, God, Paul Walker.
What?
Don't mention him. Well, Paul Walker deserved it. But anyways.
Damn. We're a minute in. All
was
right.
just being fast and furious. Okay, so here's the thing. Robin Williams is a great... I got forced into going and seeing the new Aladdin because I have children.
How was it?
Wife.
I haven't seen it yet, but I am being forced in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. It was good. I liked it. The thing is, I won't say that it was like amazing because my wife's obsessed with it. But you know, it's Aladdin, man. I don't know. It's kind of like in my generation of like, you know, what were we probably, 10 to 12, somewhere in there when that stuff came out. So
yeah,
right when we were coming up as kids. So it was a good time. But Will Smith, good try, but you're no Robin Williams. You know what I mean?
No, he's not.
Right. Anyways, man, I am glad to be back and talking about football. It's been a while since we've podcasted, and we're ready for full throttle. And we do something like this every year because, we do this now for multiple years. We like to break down divisions. We like to start with the summer and kind of like just say, all right, here's what happened with all the free agent acquisitions. Here's what happened with the draft. Let's see what has changed about these teams. Let's see if it is going to be significant to how these teams place, and even to how this may even impact fantasy production. So, John, I'll let you tell everyone a little bit about what we're about to do.
So we are going to be focusing on the worst and most pitiful conference or division in football. That is the NFC East.
Oh, man.
Home of every single douchebag fandom there is. And it's rough because it's
God.
like, how do you pick which one's worse? You have the Eagles, obviously, Snowball and Santa Claus. You have the Cowboys that actually think they're entitled to something and a victim at the same time. Then you get into the most racist mascot alive. Gosh, and you haven't even touched the New York Giants, who, you have now not only Eli Manning with the dumbest face in the NFL, but you add to it dumb face number 2, Daniel Jones. Have you seen the picture where they're standing next to each other with their helmets on?
No.
Like, you couldn't even Photoshop it to look as bad as their faces look. It's a thing of beauty. So, yes, exactly. Anyway, we're going to be going down position by position and ranking against the division. Every single team in the NFL prepares first to win the division, and everything after that is secondary. So we're going to start with the position up front, good old quarterback, and we're going to go team by team, and we are going to rank every one of them. Who has the best quarterback, who has the best wide receiver core, who has the best O-line, D-line. We're going to do it all.
Yeah. So we're going to start with quarterback right off the bat?
I think we have to, right?
Yeah,
definitely the most
so.
important. And we got not to mention your team just signed your quarterback to he's going to be popping out of a genie before his contract's up.
Well, and two, I think you went to say the number of the contract, but it's actually a tricky little contract there, isn't it? I don't know if you know the deets on that.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of guarantee, and anytime a new position player signs a contract, it's always going to be the most expensive wide receiver or whatever, and all that stuff. That's just for Twitter clicks and whatever else. But that's very normal because the salary cap is expanding each and every year, and they're getting more and more creative with these contracts because the NFL, for some reason, doesn't have guaranteed contracts. Only major sport not to. So anyway, it's not a bad deal, but it is a lot of money. He better stay healthy. That's all I got to say.
Well, what else were we going to do? You know what I mean?
So let's go through, all right, and let's talk about all four of these teams, and this position's probably going to be one of the easiest to break down. So right at the top, I mean, is there, the four starting quarterbacks, which is kind of rough to do. Who's starting for the Redskins? They draft Dwayne Haskins in the first round for sure. Also, they still have Keenum brought over. Alex Smith is broken in half, so he's not a guy. Colt McCoy's there. But regardless of any of those four options, man, I guess we do have a little bit of a debate here because I think the New York Giants and Eli Manning and Daniel Jones are fighting for this last spot. So who do you think is worse at quarterback here out of these two groups?
Yeah, after looking at it for a minute, I'm going to go ahead and say that Eli is the worst quarterback for the starter. And I don't think it's going to go to Jones because obviously that GM and that organization has just a commitment and a loyalty to Eli that only celebrities wish they could have in their marriages.
Yep.
It's pretty unfathomable how you could watch a guy, how his arm slows down. He's not throwing the deep ball as well. His interception rate is increasing. And they're just like, you know what? We're going to stick by our guy. Lose or lose. We're going to stick by him. So that's where I'm at. Even, considering the other quarterback situations, which some are much better, I'm saying Eli, number one. He's the last quarterback in the division that we're talking about.
I think you're right. And, they just came out yesterday and said Daniel Jones could start the season opener. You cannot trust anything that this front office says. We didn't sign Odell Beckham just to trade him. Oh, we did that. We're fine with Eli. We don't need to draft a quarterback. Oh, we drafted a quarterback. They're just trolling people. And they might not even know what the hell's going on. It's the worst general manager in football. So we'll go Giants fourth place, which is going to leave the Redskins third at quarterback. They're not great there. They've just got a whole bunch of guys. It's going to be curious to see who comes out. And then we have the top two guys. And I think there is a huge gap here between the bottom two and top two. Dak Prescott versus Carson Wentz. You're not going to get much of an argument from me here, but go ahead, Charles. Light it on fire, my friend.
So let me just say that I actually do understand when somebody values Dak over Carson because Dak has stayed more healthy.
Okay.
So you could easily make an argument to say that Dak is the better and more reliable quarterback in the division. Let me back up. You could say he's the more reliable quarterback. But when Carson's being Carson, he is the better quarterback out of the two simply because he can make more throws than Dak can, and he keeps his eyes down the field, and he reads through his progressions. Not to just talk about that he's a better athlete than Dak Prescott as well, but he's a more injured athlete too. So, again, that you balance the scales there. But it's hard. Obviously, I'm an Eagles fan, so I'm a bit of a homer. But let's be real. If you're starting your franchise all the way over and you get to take any of these quarterbacks that we're talking about right now, and you want to compete to win it all, not just to kind of get to the first round of the playoffs, who you taking? I'm taking Carson Wentz. And that's my argument because I believe that when he plays and when he's healthy, he's a top 5 quarterback in our league.
Yeah, I agree completely. Who's at the best in their game? The Eagles' offense revolves around Carson Wentz. You cannot say that for Dak Prescott. He is
right.
Move the Sticks podcast, which is one of my favorites with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks. They use this term called, is your quarterback just the trailer, like the team's pulling them along, or are they the truck? Is your guy the guy that's pulling the whole team along? Carson Wentz is that truck, and Dak Prescott is a trailer, and probably a poor one at that, to be honest with you. I'm not a Dak fan. So,
yeah.
All right, so let's move on to our next position group, and this one might be one of the hardest. We're going to have to fight through this one a little bit because there is some insane top-end talent.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley. Ooh, geez. Zeke Elliott.
Man.
Then you look at the Eagles, and they've got 5 decent starters. And you look at the sad thing is the Redskins, they're not bad either. Adrian Peterson, Chris Thompson, right. Darius Geis, Bryce Love. There's some for sure talent here. So let's start at the bottom, Chuck.
Okay.
I think that
wow.
I think it's going to be between Washington and the Eagles for the bottom two spots here, right?
So, if I'm being objective here,
which you're not, go ahead.
No, I'm going to have to be. Miles is unproven, and Howard is coming off of the season that he just had. I value Wendell Smallwood and Corey Clement higher than other people. And there's even some conversation that those last two people I just mentioned, one of those guys may not make the 53 this year, which blows my mind.
You can't carry 5 running backs.
If I'm using the same argument for the quarterbacks about who am I going to take, I think right now I've got to go that the Eagles are in last place here.
I agree with you, and by a little bit. And I love Miles Sanders. He was my number 2 running back coming out of this draft class, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. But I do think that the depth that the Redskins have, man, it's insane. Adrian Peterson, Chris Thompson, if he's healthy, is unreal. Darius Guice hasn't even taken a snap yet.
Right.
I'm with you. I would take Eagles 4th, Redskins 2nd. Now let's get in to the top 2. Because this is fun. We all know the top names. Okay, so the Cowboys have Zeke. We all know, but who the hell is going to be the guy after that? Darius Jackson, Jordan Chun, Tony Pollard, Mike Weber. There's nothing there. And if you look at the Giants, Saquon Barkley, get it. Then Paul Perkins, Wayne Gallman, Rod Smith, John Hillman. There is a void. But those top 2 guys, holy cow.
Right. And I mean, if you want to look at in terms of the bulk of the position, like there's more depth in the Eagles and the Redskins, but that's typically what happens when you have these super elite running backs. No other talented veteran wants to kind of just, watch Zeke run the ball 100 times. So it's understandable. But I'm going to throw, everybody off here, but I'm going to say that that third spot for me, because if we're saying that the Eagles are 4 and the Redskins are 3, I'm saying the Giants are 2.
Really?
I'm putting Zeke ahead of Saquon.
Wow. So if you were starting a franchise, you would choose Zeke.
You know what? Not based on character. That would be
obviously
that would be a problem for me overall. But I think that right now, just in terms of where they are today, I would take Zeke over Saquon at this particular moment. Next year could be a different situation, and I'll be honest, I'm obviously also factoring in offensive line, so not just talent. I'm kind of looking at all aspects, but yeah, I mean Zeke catches the ball like a wide receiver. He's a guy you can give the ball to all game long, and he's just going to be a special, dynamic, powerful player. Saquon looked amazing last year, but he's going to struggle to be the running back that he probably can be because of the team that's around him. So I'm going 3 for the Giants because I don't think that he's able to be himself in that offense. That's just not even the peak of what we can see because of the talent. So
all right.
and then Zeke 1. What's your thoughts?
I disagree with you, but you are the tiebreaker. You are the man in charge.
Okay.
So we're going to stay with it. So running back ranks, Cowboys 1, Giants 2, Washington 3, Eagles 4. So there you go. All right, let's move on. Next group. We are going to group in. This is the entire receiver core. So wide receivers and tight ends. So we might spend a little bit more time here because it's not like running back or quarterback where there's just one guy. This is 5 or 6 guys. So depth, star quality, all those things we're going to be getting into. And I think right off of the bat, we have a team that we could just remove from this conversation.
Two teams.
Yeah, maybe. There's not a lot here, but there's a lot of positions. So let's start off by talking about Washington.
Yeah, they're clearly in the last place. They might be the worst wide receiving core in the NFL. I don't think that that's even a long shot. It's not a diss.
So who's the best player out of this group? Let's just say, I'm going to say some names, and you tell me who is the best. Paul Richardson, Josh Doxson, Trey Quinn, Brian Quick, Kelvin Harmon, Terry McLaurin. Who's the best? Who's the second best?
It's unproven, but I'm a big fan of Kelvin Harmon. But
Interesting enough, Gruden had a press conference today. A lot of teams are going through mini camp, and he brought up Terry McLaurin several times. He brought up Paul Richardson. He brought up Josh Doxson. He brought up Trey Quinn. Didn't say Kelvin Harmon's name one time.
Wow.
I know. I'm a Kelvin Harmon man myself, and so curious to see what's going to happen there.
He'll just get cut, and the Patriots will pick him up, and he'll be wide receiver 20 in fantasy this year.
Now, what about tight end? So, if we look at tight end, they're hurting there too.
Right.
Jordan Reed, no, he's always hurt. He might play the first month. Vernon Davis, he's old, sprinkle nothing. So, I think we can just say, all right, these guys are
definitively last. And I also think too that it's really clear cut who's number 3 as well.
Go ahead, do tell, sir.
Giants. They are, and I'll talk a little bit about why, because I'm sure maybe there's an argument to be had about between the Giants and the Cowboys. But you've got Golden Tate. I love him in this offense. I think he's going to thrive. I like him over Shepard for fantasy production this year.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, he's got dude. I mean, the Philly couldn't do the guy justice just because of how that offense worked. He still got it. Shepard, love him. And then guess what? After that, and I'm not going to talk about tight end, you've got Corey Coleman as your number 3 wide receiver.
That's pretty trash.
Fowler, fighting for that 3 or 4 spot. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, there's no depth.
There's no depth. Okay, so what happens when Tate or Shepard gets injured for one game, right? Then all of a sudden you're lining up Shepard, Corey Coleman, and Fowler all game long? Are you kidding? How?
I think if that happens, and we saw a little bit of this last year where they come out and they do 2 tight ends with Evan Ingram and Rhett Ellison. Yeah. And Rhett Ellison would be the tight end, and Evan Ingram will become the wide receiver.
Right.
Rhett Ellison, I'm looking at it now. He had 557 snaps last year.
Wow.
The guy was on the field nonstop. So if that happens, you just basically have an extra offensive lineman and Ellison, and you split out Ingram. Now, a big point of contention I have with you is I think Evan Ingram is one of the better tight ends in this division. Eagles obviously head and shoulders above, but the Cowboys, who are fighting for this 2 to 3 spot, I give it, they do have a little bit more depth. They have Amari Cooper, who's got some stud quality. Yeah. But they have the worst tight end situation, maybe in the NFL. I get Witten's coming back, but good Lord.
Yeah, so the reason that I'm going this way, for me, and it's definitive, is that there are 5 wide receivers that the Cowboys have who I like. I generally like all 5 of these guys. Gallup, Cooper, Tavon Austin, Randall Cobb, and Hearns. And say what you want about Hearns. I've been a fan of the guy. We'll see how this year pans out for him. But I'm taking those guys, that group of 5, 100% over this wide receiver group that goes too deep. And tight end is something where, Witten probably can still ball to some degree. You're right.
He can get your first downs.
But you know what? Evan Ingram, in terms of what does he provide to that offense, they rely on him too much, but he doesn't equal out a more complete wide receiver core, even as talented he is. So they're clearly 3 for me.
Yeah, and again, as I just look through the Cowboys' depth, they have it. Tavon Austin's a joke. I get it because he was a first-round bust. However, if you put Tavon Austin on the Giants' roster, he's starter. So Randall Cobb, Michael Gallup, Hearns, there's a lot of depth there. So I'm with you. So we've got Washington 4, Giants 3, Cowboys 2, and let's just take a second.
Yeah.
Good Lord, man.
You don't get to roster bait very often in life.
As an Eagles fan, you're right. Go ahead.
No, for sure. I mean, I haven't, and here's the thing. Sometimes it's fool's gold or whatever, and you get the dream team. And hopefully it's not like that, right? Because you catch the injury bug, and it's like, damn it, I wanted to see what this would be like. But these guys are kind of proven. This isn't like some flash in the pan group that we're putting together. These guys, all we've done is added pieces to the core, not replace the core, which is beautiful. So this is the deepest group, wide receiver, tight end in the league, in my opinion. That's including everybody. So we got Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey, and Deshaun Jackson. Just that alone, that is just a matchup nightmare for many, many teams in this league. Then on top of that, you got a guy right now who is balling camp. Talk about people who are coaches talking about him. J-Jaw. Oh, baby. They're talking about him. Apparently the guy can just snag the ball and has hooked up with Carson Wentz and Nate Sudfeld several times in the end zone. Yes, it's minicamp, but there's a lot of guys who don't do that. One of the guys, too, I'll just mention this is a make or break year for Mac Hollins, who he's got to establish himself as an additional deep threat, sort of like a secondary Deshaun Jackson. But he might be pressed for his money. There's some buzz out of camp about a former quarterback out of Houston named Greg Ward.
Dude could ball, man. He was so fun. I love watching him play at Houston. Yeah. He was an early Heisman candidate early on in the year when Todd Herman was there and they beat OU. Man, he was a ball. That dude's an athlete.
Yeah. And then you move on to the tight end group, which, you got to put Ertz probably top 3, top 4 tight end in the league. Right? I mean,
yes.
Get some consensus.
He's third.
There. He's third.
If he's probably this, man, I don't know if I'd say best receiving. He runs the best routes and has some of the best hands. He just doesn't do near as much after the catch as Kelsey or Kittle.
I agree. And you can go back to the Hard Knocks last year when
Michael Kendricks,
yeah. a.k.a. Wall Street criminal, goes to the Browns and tells them, hey, Ertz is the best receiver on that team. So now we're talking about that this dude actually could almost throw into the wide receiver group. But then you got Goddard, who is 100% the most talked about person in camp right now.
He's the best tight end. I think him and Evan Ingram are close.
Yeah, I do too.
And you've got the backup tight end on your team that might be the second best tight end in the division. Hands down better than anybody on Washington or the Giants. It's not even close.
He's kind of a poor man's Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like how I look at it. I don't think he's maybe as dynamic in terms of his athleticism. But right now they're just saying they kind of don't know how teams are going to match up against this two tight end set, especially when you put the burners on the edges. Like, what are you going to do here?
It's just what that team is just depth. That's just all the Eagles are. We want 5 to 6 guys at all position groups. We want 4 quality running backs. We want 5 quality wide receivers, 2 quality tight ends. Like, we just want depth. And one of the best rosters in the NFL. So to wrap that position group up, wide receivers and tight ends, Eagles 1, Cowboys 2, Giants 3rd, and Washington in last. Now this next group, and this is our last position on offense, I have just finished. I'm going to humble brag a little bit.
Yeah, humble brag.
I went through and ranked the entire offensive line units for the entire NFL, counted up how many sacks, pressures, quarterback hits each unit allowed last year, key additions, subtractions, Pro Football Focus grades, and ranked everybody out. It was a huge task, but it was a lot of fun. So O-line I've done a lot of work on. Okay. And what makes it fun is this division. I didn't do it by division. I did all 32 teams. But I have all 4 of the NFC East teams kind of grouped together in 2 separate tiers. Yeah. So, for example, I have the Giants and Washington Redskins ranked back-to-back 19-20 in the NFL. So, bottom tier. And then I have the Cowboys and Eagles ranked towards the top. And we'll talk about them in a second. Yeah. But let's focus on the bottom 2 teams, which it seems like everything that we're going through, the tiers seem to be pretty much the same. The Giants and Washington fighting over the scraps, and the Eagles and Cowboys fighting for the title. So, real quick, the starting 5 linemen as of now for the Redskins are Trent Williams, who's a stud. Yep. But he might be holding out. He's pretty pissed about this because they handled his injury incorrectly, and he's really, really, really upset. So, talk of holdout / just not reporting, demanding a trade, all that's there. If Trent Williams leaves, Washington might have the worst O-line in the NFL.
Yep.
But anyway, Trent Williams, Eric Flowers at left guard, Chase Roulier at center, Brandon Scherf, who has a lot of potential, just hasn't been healthy, right guard, and then Morgan Moses at right tackle. Lots and lots of issues on this group.
So I had heard that Trent Williams did request a trade.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a problematic. I have them as third.
Okay.
But I understand them being fourth.
They're
Matter
a
of
coin
fact,
flip here.
Right.
I'm fine with that. So you're the tiebreaker.
The tiebreaker.
So you'll put them third. Go ahead.
I'll put them third just because I don't think that Nate Soldier translated. And I think that Will Hernandez is the best offensive lineman on the Giants. And
would you say that even since they got Kevin Zeitler, who's the best blocking guard in the NFL on the trade? With Cleveland?
You know what? I didn't account for him being on that team, so I'd move them back. Then I would just I would change that ranking with that new information. I'd go Redskins 4, Giants 3, just knowing that. But it's close, like you said.
It is close because there's some huge holes there. So Nate Soldier at left tackle has not been very good, as you said. Will Hernandez was a rookie, but was great. John Halippo at center's solid. Kevin Zeitler, best run blocking right guard. But then the right tackle, maybe the worst right tackle in the entire NFL, Mike Rimmers. They don't really know who the guy is going to be. He graded out with a 59 last year. So they're helping their offensive line. There's no doubt about it, but there's still a glaring hole at right tackle.
Well, hopefully they can get that worked out, because right tackle does seem to be one of those positions that is like there's always like a free agent out there. Left tackle seems to be a little bit more difficult to replace. But again, like we said, within the theme of this, Redskins and Giants just kind of like right next to each other, huddled near the fire outside.
Hey, you have a bad GM, it's where you're going to stay. And they have two of the worst GMs in football. So that's what it is.
To be honest, this next portion is a harder debate for me.
It's hard for everybody, and I love these two offensive lines. I have them ranked number 4 and 5, kind of respectfully, so I won't tell you who I have ranked higher. Let's just talk through each one of these.
Yeah,
the Cowboys are interesting because the Cowboys finished the year, according to Pro Football Focus and a lot of other things, kind of in that 12 to 15 range because they had so many injuries. Their left tackle that they drafted in the second round, Connor Williams, was awful last year at left guard. Travis Frederick, their all-pro center, didn't play at all. Tyron Smith is amazing at left tackle, one of the best. Zach Martin, one of the best right guards. And La'el Collins at right tackle as well. So they have so much. There's 3 all-pros on this offensive line. The question is Connor McGovern, the rookie that they drafted, going to be able to solidify that left guard spot? And can Travis Frederick stay healthy? If those two answers are yes, you could talk about the Cowboys having the best offensive line in the NFL without a doubt. But when we look at the Eagles, holy freaking cow.
Yeah.
They had a top 5 offensive line last year, and what did they do in the first round? Oh, you go draft the best pass blocking tackle at number 22 overall. You stole him from the Texans, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
Jason Peters comes back. Isaac Seumalo, I know I said that wrong. Jason Kelsey, another great center. Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson. There is no holes in this roster.
Well, left guard could be a hole. You know, it could be considered that way. But I think that there is some probably likelihood that down the road, may not be this year, because I don't think Jason Peters is probably done after this year. I could see him moving into left guard, and
gosh,
Dillard,
that would be,
it'd be nuts. I mean, in terms of the pass blocking, it would be pretty baller as well. Jason Kelsey, I just want to say too, he's not just he is elite in several categories. Pro Football Focus has him ranked at like somewhere between like number 1 to number 5, and like all these different categories that I've seen, where a lot of it having to do with like specific types of running plays, like pulling plays and being able to get to the outside in front of a running back as quick as possible. I mean, the guy just thrives and stuff like that. And remember last year he had kind of a down year, and people were like ready to say, get this guy out of here.
No
so, for sure.
So to put this in perspective, according to Pro Football Focus, Jason Kelsey's the number 1 rated center with an 83.6 grade. Okay.
Yep.
The next closest center, Matt Paredes, is a 79.
Right.
So the difference between Kelsey and Paredes at number 2 is the exact same difference between Paredes at 2 all the way down to the 5th center. So I think it's very easy to say. I've never thought about this before, but the 2 best centers in the NFL are in this division.
Yeah.
That's a tough squad, man.
Well, and I'll tell you, too, when the left tackle, Tyron Smith from the Cowboys, is healthy, he's the best left tackle in football. So they have that going for him. But I believe that we have the best right tackle in football in Lane Johnson. And I think that right tackles have to line up against more elite pass rushers than ever before. And by the way, DeMarcus Lawrence, you've never recorded a sack against Lane Johnson.
Oh, he went straight at him. He went straight at him.
And then you got Brandon Brooks, who's got unbelievable run blocking grades. And so, I take the Eagles over that unit just because I'm not a believer in Collins, and I'm concerned about the health of Fredericks, as good as he is.
All right. I have the Eagles ahead as well. But again, I think there is an asterisk there. They're both absolutely incredible, but if the Cowboys hit on all cylinders, they could have one of the better O-lines ever.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that.
But there are a couple of question marks there. I have them both top 5.
Let me say, too, that the Eagles 100% have more depth than the Cowboys do. Behind them, right now, Andre Dillard is not starting. Right now, Stefan Wisniewski is not starting. Big V is not starting. These are guys who, in a pinch, can come and give you a solid start. Big V stepped up in some of the biggest moments of his life against Everson Griffin in the playoffs 2 years ago and in the Super Bowl. Like, these are guys who have performed and can be there for you. So I like the depth that the Eagles have as well in this position group. So,
I like it. So before we jump over to the other side of the ball, just a real quick synopsis of ranking these things. It's very visual. The Eagles have finished, these are just their overall ranks, first in 3 separate categories and last in 1. The Cowboys have not fallen below 2 in anything. 2-1, 2-2 were their ranks. The Redskins didn't finish above 3 in anything. 3-3, 4-4 were their offensive
I ranked the
ranks.
Cowboys 1 at running back, but I get it. I get why you didn't.
Yeah, 2-1, 2-2.
Oh,
well,
okay,
that's the one they got. Yeah, that's the one they got. The Reds, as I said, the Redskins 3-3, 4-4, and the Giants 4-2. Saquon got them there alone 2 and 3-3. So that's the offensive ranks there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to the other side. Let's go defense. We've got just 3 simple areas: D-line, linebacker, secondary, and I get the 3-4-4-3 dynamic. Basically, if you are an interior defender, D-lineman, or edge sack guy, we're going to count you for D-line here for purposes of today.
Yep.
So let's jump in this D-line, man. We've got a couple elite groups, and I think this is going to kind of change the theme of staying with who's been at the top the entire time.
Right.
Hopefully we will anyway. So let's go ahead, man. Which team do you want to start with?
It's tough, man. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it easy on us. I'm going to reverse this. At D-line, it is the Eagles number 1. Listen. Is there any contest here?
I don't think
division?
That there is.
No, there's not.
You can make the argument
NFL?
they have the best D-line in the NFL. They're definitely top 3.
Listen, folks. I mean,
go ahead,
let me. We don't get to roster mate often in life, friends. Let me tell you, behind Fletcher Cox, right? So we part ways with Timmy Jernigan. We say, hey, we can't do that contract. Then we go out and we get Malik Jackson. You go research this guy and you see what type of player he's been with the Jacksonville Jaguars and with the Denver Broncos. Some would believe to say that was an upgrade over Timmy Jernigan. I don't know your thoughts there. I'd like to hear what you think.
He had a rough year last year, but
Yeah.
if you look at the last 6 years, he has been a prominent member on one of the best defenses ever in Denver when they won the Super Bowl there with Von Miller and all that stuff. He was elite. And then whenever he goes to Jacksonville, they went from one of the worst defenses to best, given there's lots of players around. But he allows the edge pressure to be created.
Yeah. So then, as the Eagles would have it, thank you, Howie Roseman, Timmy Jernigan comes back and says, you know what, I'll come back on a smaller contract. So that interior depth is, I don't know, second to none. It's pretty dang good. As well as we have some undrafted free agents who have really performed well. I won't go into those guys. We also traded for Hassan Ridgeway.
Yeah. I coached against this kid in high school. He was a beast. Played at the University of Texas, and he's just kind of that long, super athletic, just powerful defensive end / run stopper. He's more of a run defender that will play on early downs, but just a huge guy. He was with the Colts for a while. He's not bad. Now, your edge defenders, though, let's stay there.
Yeah, so obviously that's a place where people could come back and say, well, all right, Brandon Graham is still Brandon Graham, okay? We'll just leave it at that. Maybe
top 10 edge player.
Top 10 edge player.
Maybe not a top 10 sack guy, but as far as disruptions.
Impacts the game.
Yeah.
Impacts the game. And then you've got Derek Barnett, and before his injury was looking like absolutely a first-round pick and a worthy first-round pick. So we'll see how he comes back off of his injury. And then, again, another guy who is with us, didn't have a great year with the stint that he did, but, man, I'm so glad to have him back, is Vinny Curry, a guy I really believe can impact quarterbacks with his length, his athleticism. So is it as deep as it was last year with having Michael Bennett? Michael Bennett showed up big time in the second half of the season. Michael Bennett was kind of a non-factor the first 8 games, but I can't take away with what he did the second half. So I love our defensive line this year. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about Sharif Miller as well. We'll kind of see how that pans out. But yeah, I'm going to go number 1 there. John, do you have any disagreements?
No, absolutely not. I don't think that this one is much of a debate. Now, the next 3 spots are rough. So we've got the number 1. Let's drop down to the bottom, and let's figure out who should be last. Because I think that there's 2 teams that could win this one. I think it's between the Giants and the Cowboys for worst defensive line. And I'd probably say the Giants are the worst. Just because DeMarcus Lawrence is on the Cowboys, and he alone... Tank's unreal, man. So the Giants are trash. So they had a couple decent defenders. They traded them away for offensive players. They draft Dexter Lawrence with the pick that they traded away Odell Beckham Jr. for. So good. Enjoy your nose guard, who already has steroid stuff in his past. So that's great.
Awesome.
And there's just not much else. Dalvin Tomlinson's all right. B.J. Hill's all right. And then edge players are just completely absent. Lorenzo Carter was a decent player that they got a still in last year. But after that, O'Shane Ximenez, are you kidding me? That's going to be a starter. Marcus Golden, he's a decent player, but he ranked as the number 111 edge defender with Cardinals. And so you're bringing over these guys that wouldn't start for any other team in the NFL, and it's who the Giants are.
It's a problem. Yeah, it's looking at the roster right now, it's yucky. It's a team who I'm going to say that a lot of teams are going to have success against. So I'm looking at some super offenses when they get their matchup against the Giants for fantasy.
Yep.
This is looking bad.
All right, let's jump over to the Cowboys. And again, you have to start with DeMarcus Lawrence.
Right.
I mean, good Lord, top 6 edge player in the NFL, and he got paid. He might start off on the PUP list, which is a bummer. But Taco Charlton's okay. Robert Quinn's okay. Randy Gregory's high right now. Whatever. And then the inside, they lost a couple of key players. But they get another guy that I really like, Tristan Hill, rookie out of Central Florida. He's a huge boom-bust guy that's got character issues. # Jerry Jones. So there is some talent there. Malik Collins, Tyrone Crawford, Christian Covington. There's depth and on the interior, and you have your elite edge guy. So if they can get one or two guys to step up, this defense, especially with the linebackers, which we're not to yet, they're going to be something special.
I'm going to say this about the Cowboys' defense, and this is just me. Now, this is outside of D-Law, because D-Law, he eats through practically anyone except Lane Johnson. But the secondary and the linebacking core actually provide time for the defensive line. And usually it's the other way around, right? Like where defensive lines are helping out the secondary. That's how the Eagles have eaten for the past 10 years, right? It's like we need our defensive line to get there so that our cornerbacks don't get burned. But it kind of works the other way around, and I'm just more even specifically talking about that linebacking core. I feel like there's more grace involved because as much as I like Collins and Woods, these aren't guys that are putting in a ton of interior pressure on quarterbacks. So I think that they're perfectly they fit that number 2 spot.
Yeah. Wow, so you put them number 2?
No, sorry. No, number 3.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, and this is the thing. This is the first time Washington has been over in the top 2 in anything. And I think they deserve it here because you could say whatever you want about them. They have invested on the defensive line. Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, the past 2 years spending first-round picks on Alabama defensive interior linemen. That's going to be settled. And then they also get Tim Settle, who's another big run-stuffing guy out of Virginia Tech. And if you look at their edge, they get Montez Sweat this year. Ryan Kerrigan is a solid player in the NFL. Ryan Anderson's not bad either. And they have your boy Marcus Smith on roster there, too.
Yikes.
So I threw a little dig there. But Washington, you can say what you want. They will be very difficult to run on. And you can throw against them. We're not talking about secondary yet. But they have an elite run-stuffing defensive line. And if there's one thing that I can credit this terrible GM and horrible owner in Snyder, he has built his defense to stop what the NFC East does well, and that's run the football.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are we going next?
All right, next up, we've got linebackers. So, and just to summarize D-line, Eagles 1, Washington 2, Cowboys 3, Giants dead last. So let's jump over to linebackers, and, man, do we want to start with the Cowboys here?
Sure. I mean, I'll just say, for me anyways, they're clearly number 1.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, when they basically invested in Smith after his injury, I knew it. I just had this gut feeling. This never works out. Jalen Smith is going to be a stud for these guys. And then they go get the Wolf Hunter. And these guys...
another risky pick. If you remember,
right.
News came out like, hey, he's got a neck issue. He's one hit away from being done.
Yeah. The guy hits and moves around the field like Brian Urlacher. That's who he reminds me of. And they run this cover 2 that's just like sort of like... I mean, it's not always cover 2, but it's got this almost Tampa Bay cover 2 type of look back when Gruden was in Tampa Bay with Derek Brooks and such. That's almost like daring you to, come into contact with these guys. They get to the ball to the outside so damn quick. You better have blocked them in some shape, way, or form because these sweep plays, these things, these edge plays, these wide receivers on these jet sweeps, they're not working against these guys. They're shutting it down. That's a scary group right there. They can definitely
Sean Lee's on the bench.
Right.
They benched him when he was healthy. For the longest time, it was, man, the Cowboys' defense will go as Sean Lee goes. If he's healthy, they're a top 10 defense. If not, you can do whatever you want. Well, he was healthy last year, and they benched him. Van Der Esch was the number 5 ranked linebacker by Pro Football Focus, and Jalen Smith was number 8. And both of those guys, after playing a year, this is, you could argue, the best linebacking core in the NFL, and you wouldn't be wrong. So let's put the Cowboys 1.
Let's give them their due.
Let's give them their due. Now let's do this, okay? Because let's just do number 2, because I don't think there's a debate here, okay? Number 2 is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, Zach Brown, getting him I don't understand how. I really don't understand how. Zach Brown just seemed like nobody wanted him.
And if you go look at the guy's stats and then to organization that I really respect, PFF, right? Their ranking on this guy.
He's ranked number 4.
You're ranked number 4. And don't forget about Nigel Bradham. Nobody talks about this guy. This guy's the enforcer on our defense. This guy likes to hit. He likes to get into the mix and go pop people. And then Grugier Hill, who absolutely has just evolved. He's never going to be a star, but he's been an absolutely solid player for us on special teams and in the game. The guy has stepped up in big moments. So, if not for Zach Brown, I could see us slipping down the rankings, but having him there to solidify that middle, I'm excited about his coverage skills. It's going to be interesting to see, but not anywhere near. It's a big drop off. From 1 to 2 is a big drop off. The Cowboys are very far ahead in the linebacking.
And I think the next drop off's even bigger.
Huge.
I don't know how to grade these two teams. So if we look at Washington, you could say, oh, they got Reuben Foster. Let's see what happens there. Nope.
No.
He could never play football again. His injury was so bad. Hopefully there's no nerve day. I don't want to say hopefully. Like I hate this man with everything I got. But
right.
I never cheer for an injury. I'm not from Toronto. And so, but yeah, so their starters, who the hell knows? John Bostic, he's been around for forever. Mason Foster, there's nobody here that is starting level player. So the funny thing is, I'm looking at Pro Football Focus, the positional ranks for their players, 81st, 88, 128, 105, and 77. That's just ranking in linebackers. There's absolute trash there. And if we jump over to New York, it's not much better. B.J. Goodson, Alec Ogletree, Nate Stuper, that's it. These are just two positions that were basically neglected. Alec Ogletree, you could say, well, hell, he's a hell of a player. He had a 50 grade last year, ranked as the 115th linebacker. He's not the Alec Ogletree of old. I get that he was playing out of position with his previous team, but that's just a name. That's just a name. So I don't know, Chuck. I'm going to defer to you here.
Yeah, we're going to go Giants 3, Redskins 4, just because let's see how Lorenzo Carter pans out and Ogletree there. I just,
In the end, we're all losers, to be honest.
For looking at this list.
So, all right. Man. Very, very good. And our last position group breakdown, let's jump to the secondary. Cornerbacks and safeties. This is going to be a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Let's start off with the team. Maybe we haven't started off with enough.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Redskins. Okay.
Alrighty.
There's not much to be excited about. They do have a lot of names at corner.
Well, you got Hey, man, let's give respect to Josh Norman. Okay. You got to, man.
He's a starting level corner. I don't think that he would be a number 1 on any team.
Really?
I don't. Not anymore, man. Not anymore. I don't think that you can say that. I just don't think you can say
man.
it.
He kind of balls out every time I watch him play.
He does like to show up for big games. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So they got their starting corners, Fabian Monroe or Greg Stroman and Josh Norman. You got Quentin Dunbar
and
there.
DRC.
DRC is going to be interesting because is he a guy that's going to want to play? He played 147 snaps last year, had some issues, quit on a team before that. The talent's there. He's one of the cleanest corners I've ever graded. He can play, but what's going to happen there? Then if we jump back to safety, maybe one of the bright spots, Landon Collins.
Right. So
Huge.
here's the thing. Here's the thing though about Landon Collins. Yeah, great against the run. I'm not extremely excited. If he's my safety, I'm just going to say I'm a little concerned, just personally.
You got to have him in the box. If you have Landon Collins roaming free for the majority of his snaps, you're in big, big, big trouble.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work.
John, I don't know how we're going to do this, man. This is tough.
this is a rough. There's not a lot of glaring. Holy cow! These guys can play. Because even, usually Washington and the Giants would make it easy on us. But let's jump over to the Giants then. Let's just talk through these and see what happens. Save the best for last.
Janoris Jenkins.
Jackrabbit, man.
Love him.
Dude could ball. And they got Sam Beal. This is one of the players that's gone super under the radar. He was the compensatory pick. Now, he got injured, but he's a guy that could play this year. Plus, Julian Love, the guy from Notre Dame that kept coming off an injury. They got Grant Haley as well. So they've got a couple of guys there at corner. And then when you see at safety, Jabril Peppers, who they brought over in the Odell Beckham trade. Anton Bethea, he's a little older, but still has something. Michael Thomas, there's a couple guys there.
You said DeAndre Baker, right? Did you say his name already?
I did not. And oh my gosh, thank you, because he was one of my favorite corners.
Yeah, so he was taking the first, correct?
Yeah, he was the first corner off the board, wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, I think he was.
So that resume is, it's kind of stacking up. So let's jump over to the Eagles really quickly. So now you've got Darby, he's not super elite. The one reason I do like Darby is because I kind of feel like no wide receiver is going to beat him down the field, which is great.
And you can leave him manned up at any time.
Right. Sidney Jones, question mark. We just don't know. One of the guys who nobody knows, nobody's talking about, but if you go to PFF and just look at the rankings for how he's playing, undrafted free agent, Strap, Cravon LeBlanc, dude, he played amazing last year. Nobody even talked about it. I think he graded in the playoffs, he graded above the 80s in every single game. Interesting cat there. Probably the best safety duo in the division in Malcolm Jenkins and Rodney McLeod. I'm just going to stick to that for now.
Maybe. Man, I'm not the biggest McLeod guy. You don't think Sendejo was going to start over him?
No, he won't. But they're definitely talking about how Sendejo's already shown up in practice and they can feel his presence there. Yeah, he likes to bang it out. But that's a deep group at that, right? Just in terms of what we're talking about right now. And then Jalen Mills, Rasul Douglas. Man, we got no stars here. A guy I love, I'm excited about, Avonte Maddox. Man, he played his ass off last year. I definitely think he could step up in year 2.
You've got a lot of depth, man.
Yeah. Just know, for sure, these guys are locking people down. All right, so we're going to go ahead and swing over to
the Cowboys.
The Cowboys, man. Are you on
that? Motherfucker. All right, here we go. Cowboys. Man, Byron Jones, maybe the best player in any of these secondaries.
Yeah.
He's elite. Anthony Brown's not bad at all. Chidobe Awuzie, legit. Jordan Lewis, before he got hurt, was awesome. So their corners are good. Then you back up to safety. This might be Xavier Woods, not great. Jeff Heath, nope. Kevin Frazier, nope. They're missing a lot. George.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't know he was there. George Ioka from the Bengals, right?
But again, you've got a stud corner, and then there's a huge drop-off.
Yikes.
So, man, is it safe to say the Cowboys and the Giants are going to be towards the end?
Yeah, so right now, just looking at this, I'm going to go ahead and just dub number 1. Just in terms of depth, I'm going to say Giants. I'm going to give them the 1.
All right, I'm cool with that.
You good with that?
Man, that's the first thing that they had the Saquon. Oh, he finished number 2 there, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that's their first one.
I'm going to allow you to override me here, but I'll just tell you why I have the Eagles or thinking of them at number 2 over the Cowboys, because the Eagles have a guy in Malcolm Jenkins who played over 40% of his snaps at middle linebacker, played another 20% of his snaps manned up at the corner slot, played the rest of them at his natural position, and then you've got Darby there. So I just feel like you kind of got 2 stars there, and you've got Byron Jones and kind of nobody else.
Okay. No, I'm cool with that. And these guys are all close. All of them are close.
I could go tie here as well. Honestly.
No tie because that's going to mess up my formula. So
Gotcha.
Eagles 2, Cowboys 3, and then last place going to be Washington, man.
Wow.
Which, and again, you can look at their wide receiver core and say the Washington got last place, and then say their secondary they got last place. Two totally different things.
Yeah.
Two totally different things. There are some quality pieces in the secondary, and perhaps all of these would be ranked in the top 16 of the NFL. But this is how we're going to do it. So I have been totaling all of these numbers. Let me just hit my calculator button over here.
Boop, beep, beep, boop, boop, boop.
A little more. A couple more times, please.
Doop-a-dap-dap-dap.
All right. So keeping track, and I want to kind of summarize where every team finished. Here we go. All right, the Eagles, to finish out all of their rankings, here we go. They finished 1-4, 1-1, 1-2-2. So those are the 7 different positional grades, and they finished with an overall score of 12. Okay? Lower the score, the better. Cowboys.
Gotcha.
2-1, 2-2, 3-1-3. And their overall score is 14. All right? Redskins, 3-3, 4-4, 2-4-4.
Yeah.
Their overall score is 24.
Yikes. Big jump.
Bogey Golf. And the Giants, 4-2, 3-3, 4-3-1, with an overall score of 20. So, Eagles 12, Cowboys 14, Giants 20, Redskins 24.
Feels right.
It feels right, man. Like, we didn't do this beforehand. We did this on the fly as y'all were listening.
And if we would have given the Cowboys the secondary nod, right, it would have been 13. It would have been a tie. Been 13-13. Would have been a swing.
No, it just would have been the difference between 1 point. Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, you got to take one away.
Yeah, would have.
But and that's the thing. These two teams are playoff teams, Eagles and Cowboys, and the Redskins and Giants are sure as hell not. I don't think there's any way they can.
Exactly. And even if, okay, this is what I've taken away after breaking down these rosters. Even with some pretty heavy injuries here, I would confidently say that the Giants and the Redskins are not going to get near either the Cowboys or the Eagles this year.
No matter what.
Because there's always going to be injuries. There's always going to be stuff like that. But the Cowboys' depth, the Eagles' depth is vast. And I think the Eagles are definitely have more depth than the Cowboys. But Jesus, the Giants and the Redskins, if they get one starter going down, it's game time.
Yep.
It's over. Redskins honestly don't even look like they belong, especially when you look at their offense. They don't really look like they belong in the NFL.
They don't.
It's really bad.
It's almost like a tank, but they just got their quarterback, which I'm not a big fan of. But yeah,
I like Haskins. You don't like him?
He's okay. He's a dink and dunk guy. And so I do think Jake Gruden's a hell of a quarterback coach. He's bad at everything else.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, this is fun, Chuck. I enjoyed this. We'll next episode we'll be breaking down. We'll have to jump over to the AFC. We'll have to go back and forth. So let's just AFC East this bad boy.
Yes, sir. All right, man. This has been NFL Express. Choo choo. Peace.